What's up, Wolfpack fam? Welcome back at it again. Hope everyone is doing good today. I just noticed I got a hole in my shirt, but whatever. Westside, who cares? We gonna chill out with you guys today. Checking out something a little different today. This is the Glasgow documentary, I believe 2016 or 2006, I believe. So we're checking this one out thanks to Rangers. He recommended this one and has been telling us to check this one out for a cool minute. So without further ado, yeah, 2006. Yeah, just came 2006, guys. So we're gonna check this one out. This is gonna be a gang documentary, so it's a different feel from comedy, guys. So bear with it. Have an open mind and let me know what you guys think, of course, in the comments below on this one. All right, 3, 2, let's go.
This is a real-life scene from the streets of downtown Glasgow, captured on closed-circuit television cameras. Roving bands of young guys make their way through the street. They move in on another youth. They corner him against a car. One of the guys pulls a knife, a machete in fact. It's a relentless, vicious attack.
Jesus.
The boy nearly died. The teen wielding the knife was caught and charged with attempted murder. A random attack? No.
That's what the kids.
What would you say roughly were the age of those guys? Would those kids be like teenagers, 15, 16, somewhere along the line of that? That is a freaking beatdown. That's a huge jumping right there. I mean, they could have just beat his ass to death with the freaking machete like shit. That shit, you just saw that shit. That shit was huge. Holy shit.
Kids do on a Friday night. They will be sober when they leave home. They will take a knife with them. It will be a locking knife. They'll hide it down the front of their shorts. They'll go a short distance and they'll meet some of their friends. They'll share a bottle of wine. They'll share some high-strength lager or beer. Then they'll meet another group, and the other group will be the opposition, who will have had the same preparation for the evening. And then they'll fight.
Jesus.
Is that what they call a chip?
That's a slash.
When did that happen?
Oh, when I was drunk, just got that fighting and all that shit. So I was impulsive.
You're fleeing at my face.
Fucking bad.
Yeah, you can see it on his stuff.
I got slashed with
A knife.
more or less every day about here.
And they could fight 100 times, and the worst that will happen is somebody will get caught and be kicked several times, or someone will get punched. But now and again, two men will square up, or young men will square up, one with a knife and the other with a baseball bat. Who dies and whose family visits the grave and whose family visits them in prison is completely random.
Crazy.
Knife crime is pervasive in Glasgow.
What?
You're lucky to be alive. Every 6 hours, someone reports a serious slash to the face.
Now, is what she just said right there, is that true? That every 6 hours or so, someone is reporting getting slashed? Do people get slashed a lot out here? Is it still like this? Because again, this is 2006
The scars
documentary.
are worn proudly, a measure of their manhood. These boys are from Postle Park, an area rife with gang activity.
It's the way of life.
What do you mean? Just cause your face somewhere, people try to fight with you in the town centre.
And it turns ugly.
Right, sometimes.
Recreational violence, territorialism.
What's recreational violence?
There's no profit. If you're a robber and you present a knife to somebody and say, give me your watch, there's a profit in that. You're getting a watch for your trouble. With territorialism, recreational violence is just, why are you fighting? Because you don't come from here. We come from here, you come from there.
Yeah, that's like the definition of different sets. Like, for example, let's say you have the Crips and you have the Bloods and all that stuff. If you're Blood, you know, and you're all decked out in red shit and you go on into Crips territory, you better expect that something's gonna happen. You're gonna stand out, shit like that definitely happens when you wear the wrong colors, wrong neighborhood, wrong time. Shit like that definitely does happen. People get stabbed, especially in New York and shit. People be getting jumped. A little less now, but was definitely very frequent growing up. A lot of gang presence and stuff like that. Not so. I think a little less now. You do see beatdowns still happen and shit, but a little less. Let me know if this is still a heavy presence out there now.
We fight.
Curious to
What
know.
causes the fight between gangs?
Rivalry.
Rivalry over
Because
what?
people want to be the best.
The best at what?
Best
Best at
gang.
fighting and madness, no? This better not be in Glasgow, and I'll sue your asses to the ground.
Fucking spoofs.
Here's the territory they come from and fight over. They're known as the schemes, the poorest parts of the city. In North America, we would call them the housing projects.
Okay. We have
The
plenty of
violence may
projects
start
here.
here, but as we showed you, it often spills onto the streets of downtown.
Like mob
Here's
action.
another example.
Huge
On
numbers.
this particular night, several groups of young men meet up downtown, and the result is a full-on brawl.
Like you got like a belt or some shit.
Over 600,000 people live in Glasgow. Some 2,000 boys and young men take part in gang violence.
Ah, damn. Yeah, that shit just ain't even fair. There ain't no fairness in that shit. That shit's just, you getting jumped, you gonna possibly die, pretty much.
There's nothing to make them think twice.
Kathleen Mulhall has lived in the Postle Park neighborhood her whole life. She knows some of the gang members here only too well.
My brother was attacked by a gang, and the injuries that they gave him caused him to die.
How old is he?
37.
Damn.
Kathleen's brother
Fairly
Stephen
young.
was walking across a local park one night when he was attacked by a group of boys.
There was bricks and bottles and stones used, and there was also a metal scooter that was used to strike Stephen in the head.
A scooter?
A scooter,
Like one of those
like
razor
a
shits?
manual scooter.
The kind a child would
Yes, yeah. The impact that the scooter had in Stephen's head caused a fractured skull, which caused a blood clot, which over a period of time, because the blood clot was growing, caused Stephen to die.
That eerie music.
After our interview, we were shooting scenes of graffiti on this wall near the park where Stephen was killed.
Definitely a lot of graffiti.
Kathleen spots us and drives up.
Young Poso Fluto, YPF.
She explains the significance of the names on the wall.
Billy Joe, he was charged with murder. He was 14 at the time, so that's his name there.
This, as it turns out, is what she has to look at every day. The names of neighborhood boys who have been charged with murder.
Dan M, as you can see, that's Dan M. O2. He was charged with murder.
Including the name of the teenager who killed her brother.
Shit. That must be definitely hard seeing that shit, having to walk
You can
by.
make the assumption that what we've done up until now has not worked, and let's start again.
John Carnahan has been on the Strathclyde police force for over 30 years, investigating these crimes every day, chasing and arresting young men. In fact, Carnahan has a permanent reminder of what it's like on the street.
What happened
It
there?
was, I was a young detective and relatively fit, and there was a fella breaking into a school,
Relatively fit.
and we got the call, went to it, saw him, chased him for about a mile and a bit. He was getting away and I was just about to give up. He jumped over a fence, and as I jumped over the fence, I caught my finger on the top.
Damn.
That was it. And the annoying thing is, for years after, I tried to find out who it was, because I wanted to go back to him years later and say,
Yeah.
"You cost me a finger."
Jesus. Jesus.
The
This was
blade culture in
1960s?
Glasgow is nothing new.
Even a stabbing might not get more than a few lines down column in the Glasgow papers, because in this city of violence, ordinary stabbing is hardly news anymore.
So would you guys say that it's still a common thing, stabbings? That's something we want to know. Is there a lot of shootings out there or not? I'm curious and stuff. Any quick thing that pops up to my head as far as like stabbings and stuff. Trains and the train stations. Definitely a lot of things happen at night. Clubs, certain hoods and stuff, just like you guys have it over there. Definitely housing projects. We definitely have a lot of bad housing projects in New York City, especially in the 5 boroughs. You got Bronx, you got Brooklyn, you got Queens. Every pretty much spot has their own little ghetto spot. But we're seeing from this documentary, they're definitely talking that it seems to be a common thing that's stabbing. So tell me guys about that.
For the last 30 years, the headlines have been practically the same as they are today.
Interesting though.
Today in Glasgow, gang violence takes as many lives as it did back in the 60s, about 70 people a year. Carnahan asked his chief intelligence officer to look into the situation, to give him a better idea of why this was happening.
I didn't just look at Glasgow in the last 2 or 3 years, I looked at it over 30 years.
An analyst.
And what we found was that despite all the effort and money and time that we'd spent, we had made no appreciable impact into violence in Strathclyde.
Nothing.
Nothing.
McCluskey didn't only look at the crime statistics, she looked at every statistic coming out of the schemes.
Here,
and
very
suddenly,
similar to it.
they had the big picture. This was not only the knife capital of Europe, these neighborhoods were a death trap for men in general.
All looks like kids that should be in school and stuff like that. Very young faces. You can see it. Probably like 12, 13, 14.
For example,
crazy.
The average life expectancy for a man in the United Kingdom is 76. The average life expectancy for a man in Iraq after the war is 67. Here, in the poorest parts of Glasgow, the average life expectancy for a man is 54.
Does this still hold
54.
true today? 54.
Why?
Low.
It's a perfect storm of factors. High unemployment. 1 in 6 households is fully unemployed, no one is working. High rates of alcoholism, depression, lung disease, low levels of education. Now, armed with this information, Superintendent John Carnahan came to a new conclusion. The policeman decided that scenes like this weren't just a crime. He decided scenes like this were a public health catastrophe.
If you've got a block of flats with 15 flats in
Crazy.
it, and they're on a street, and the street's in an area of high deprivation, why is it the kids who are in those flats, the guy in the top flat becomes a teacher, the woman on the other side, she ends up a prostitute and a heroin addict, and the boy at the bottom becomes a murderer, and the guy on the other side becomes a victim? Why is that? Why? They live in the same street, they live in the same area. The difference is what's behind the front door. The difference is those early years. So I think the way to look at it is perhaps different from that criminal justice thing. And the way to look at it perhaps is to, or understand, is to think about it in terms of a public health issue. If we had applied, for instance, let's say that 40 years ago public health had a problem with measles, and they decided that what they wanted to do was use the criminal justice model. Well, how would they have applied it to that? They would have built more hospitals. When you got spots, they would have put you into the hospitals and isolated you. They would have got more nurses to look after you. And once the spots got better, they'd let you out again. Now, it wouldn't have affected measles. We wouldn't have cured measles. But everyone would have felt a bit safer because the people who had them and were infected were locked away.
Now, the detective isn't
that makes
saying
sense.
violent offenders shouldn't be locked away. In fact, there's a whole new raft of legislation.
Just what?
Fight with other.
I would question whether or not police should be doing this.
Some people think this social approach is not the responsibility of the police. For one, Bill Aiken, a former judge and now a Conservative member of Scottish Parliament.
Where I would part company is the fact that I think that basically this is not a matter for police. This is a matter for social work services, for the welfare services, looking after the unmarried mother. Someone's got to be doing that, of course they have. But basically police officers should be out investigating and deterring crime.
You should be policing, not teaching moms.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to teach mums. That's nothing to do with me. But I want people who should be doing it, doing it.
But critics of the new approach believe one thing: tougher sentences and more jail time will make kids think twice before they pull that knife.
That's the criticism now, that they aren't getting that message through lenient sentencing, mostly. People say that the sentences are too lenient for the kids to get any sort of message that the consequences are severe in the society.
Well, there's always the argument about, it's back to the, let's build more.
What do they get? A light slap on the wrist? No really big repercussions if they get apprehended? Do they get apprehended a lot? It just seems like a lot of these kids just running rampant in the streets and stuff like that. And I'll pose the question in a little bit.
More jails and lock more people up.
Right.
It's like the measles argument. It'll make us all feel much better, but it won't make one iota of difference to what's there.
Really?
They don't think about it. When they get into that fight, it's the heat of battle. It's that guy fighting you. You don't want him to get you. You want to get him. End of story. The last thing in anybody's mind is, I can end up in prison for this. Nobody thinks about that. Nobody.
Why do you guys keep fighting if it's so dangerous?
Pride. Don't lag you up. Pride.
Sorry, don't hang your pansy.
Carnahan and his team have only started their research into gang violence a year and a half ago, so it's early days. In contrast, young men have been fighting each other in Glasgow for generations. Everyone knows this problem won't be solved tomorrow, including Carnahan himself.
There isn't a single solution to this. I think it'll be 1,000 victories.
How long are we talking?
I think it'll take a couple of generations. But that shouldn't deter us, because we can start to make differences very quickly, I think. What we need to do is we need to be brave enough to commit to that long term. We need to say, yeah, enough is enough.
Do you think everybody's ready to do that, say enough is enough?
I think there are more and more people coming around to it, but I don't think everyone is there yet. Because the most important people that need to say that are the people who live in these challenged communities, are the young men who are in gangs. We need to help them to walk away from them and say, I don't want to involve in this anymore.
As for Kathleen Mulhall, she won't stick around to find out how this story ends.
Out of here.
She's had enough, all right. She's moved out of her apartment to another, safer part of town.
It's time to leave here. There's too many bad memories here. I don't feel that I want to be part of a community that they're all part of.
As for the boys of Postle Park, are they ready to say enough? To say no to gang violence? There's clearly a long way to go yet.
Young kids too, man. It's was a very interesting documentary. We got a couple questions and stuff like that based on that. Since this was a 2006 documentary, does this still hold true? Is it just as bad now, Glasgow, as it was before? Has the police situation gotten better and stuff? Because being that we're from New York City, police presence is very strong and stuff like that, especially in the more ghetto areas, projects areas and stuff. You got police patrolling that shit all hours of the night and stuff like that. I remember working late, always seeing cops around the neighborhood. Do you feel that there's a lot of gang presence, at least back then, based on what he was saying with the poverty, people not having a lot of jobs, that there's a heavy presence there? Because they're probably not only doing that, are they stealing, are they robbing stuff as well? Back then, at least, when people fought, they fought with your fists and stuff. But even now, the times have changed. You got guns, you got all different types of weapons and stuff like that, and it's common. Even in places that they don't allow guns, you still see gun violence and stuff. Just today, woke up listening on the news that someone got shot in their lobby in the projects. And it was not far from our area, but these shits happen. It's common and stuff. So because of the poverty, do you think people join gangs? Are they joining the gangs, do you think, because they don't want to get jumped themselves, so they want to have strength in numbers? That's what it essentially looks like here. It's a numbers thing. You see 30 people jumping one guy and stuff. Does it scare you? Does it scare you guys checking that out if you still live there? Because I know some of our viewers are from it. Is it just as bad? Is it much better now? Do you guys still remember these things? Let me know what you guys thought about it. it's definitely very interesting, and it's very interesting thinking about that stuff with territory. You know, and it's very relatable and stuff like that, because in New York City, gang presence was very high. You got Chicago that has it's very crazy. You know, Compton, LA, you know, Los Angeles. You got a lot of places in the States here that have very crazy crime rates and gang presence. So I want to hear what you guys thought. I thought it was definitely eye opener and reminder that, you know, gangs and stuff like that exist all over, all neck of the woods and stuff. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments below. It was different. It wasn't a comedy. So it was something brand new that we tried out. So shout out to Rangers for the recommendation on it, and we'll see you soon. Peace and love.